Let's talk trade. Yes, it's dry and maybe not the most exciting topic at first glance, but stick with me. Trade is the invisible force that shapes our daily lives in ways we rarely notice. It's the reason you can sip coffee from Colombia, drive a car assembled in Japan, or buy a phone designed in California, but made in China. Every handshake at a global summit, every tense negotiation behind closed doors, ripples out to affect what's on your store shelves and how much you pay for it. Think about it. The price of your morning coffee, the cost of your next car, even the gadgets you use every day, all are shaped by the deals countries make and the barriers they put up. Trade isn't just about goods crossing borders, it's about jobs, prices, and the choices you have as a consumer. When trade flows smoothly, you get more options and better prices. When it doesn't, you feel it in your wallet. President Trump just announced a sweeping new wave of tariffs, essentially taxes on imports, targeting not just rivals, but even close allies like Canada and Japan. This isn't a minor tweak, it's a dramatic shift in how America does business with the world. The administration says it's about putting America first, but the impact is global. Japan, for example, now faces a 15% tariff on all goods entering the US. That means everything from Toyotas to PlayStations, sushi rice to high-tech electronics, could get a lot more expensive for American consumers. Japanese companies are scrambling to figure out how to absorb the costs or pass them on to you. Indonesia and the Philippines aren't spared either. They're hit with even steeper tariffs, 19%. That's a huge blow to their economies, which rely heavily on exporting everything from textiles to electronics. For American businesses that depend on these imports, it means higher costs and tough choices. It's like Oprah, but instead of free cars, everyone gets a trade barrier. No one is left out. Tariffs are being handed out across the board, and the effects are rippling through supply chains worldwide. The administration claims this will make American products more competitive and protect US jobs. The idea is that if foreign goods are more expensive, people will buy American. It's a bold promise, and for some workers it sounds like hope. But in reality, the global economy is a tangled web. Pull one thread and the whole thing can unravel. Modern supply chains are so interconnected that a tariff in one country can cause price hikes, shortages, or layoffs in another. It's not just about protecting jobs, it's about risking the stability of the entire system. This isn't a surgical strike, it's a carpet bombing of the global trading system. Markets are reacting with uncertainty. Companies are rethinking investments, and consumers are bracing for higher prices. The shockwaves are being felt from Wall Street to Main Street. Over 20 countries have already received new tariff notices, with more on the way. Each new announcement adds another layer of complexity and tension to an already fragile system. The goal? Force everyone back to the negotiating table, on America's terms. The message is clear: play by our rules or pay the price. It's a high-stakes game of economic chicken, and no one wants to blink first. The White House is even threatening the European Union, where talks have stalled. The EU is a massive trading partner, and any escalation could have serious consequences for both sides. This isn't just policy, it's a high-stakes gamble with the global economy. Economists warn that a full-blown trade war could trigger recessions, job losses, and long-term damage to international relationships. And whether we like it or not, we're all in the game. Every time you shop, every product you buy, you're feeling the effects of these decisions. Trade may seem distant, but its impact is right at your doorstep and in your shopping cart. Why would the United States target close allies like Canada and Japan with tariffs? On the surface, it seems counterintuitive. After all, these are countries that have stood shoulder to shoulder with America on the world stage for decades. But the Trump administration had a different perspective, one rooted in the idea of economic self-interest and national strength. The official line from the White House was that these tariffs were about rebalancing trade relationships that, in their view, had become lopsided over the years. Administration officials argued that the US had been too generous for too long, allowing other nations to benefit at America's expense. For decades, they claimed, countries like Canada and Japan erected their own trade barriers, subtle or otherwise, while sending a flood of their goods into the American market. The result? A growing trade deficit, with more money flowing out of the US than coming in. Tariffs, in this context, became a blunt but powerful tool. President Trump took to social media and campaign rallies to announce sweeping tariffs, pointing to massive trade deficits like the $68 billion gap with Japan in 2024, as proof that America was being taken advantage of. The message was clear: it was time to fight back and protect American jobs, especially in manufacturing and heavy industry. The strategy was straightforward: make foreign goods more expensive for American consumers. By raising the price of imports, the administration hoped to encourage people to buy American-made products, shrink the trade deficit, and ultimately claim victory in the battle for fair trade. It was an eye-for-an-eye approach. If you put tariffs on our cars, we'll do the same to yours. The idea was to force trading partners to the negotiating table by hitting them where it hurt: their exports to the lucrative US market. But global trade is far more complex than a simple exchange of finished goods. Today's products often cross borders multiple times before reaching store shelves. A single car or smartphone might contain parts from a dozen countries, assembled in several more. Tariffs don't just hit the final product. They ripple through every stage of the supply chain, raising costs for manufacturers and consumers alike. The administration's approach was to use economic pain as leverage, signaling to allies and rivals alike that no one would be exempt from tough new rules. The hope was that this pressure would force countries to the bargaining table, ready to make concessions. Ultimately, the goal was to rewrite old trade deals, some dating back decades, in ways that would favor American workers and industries. The administration wanted to reset the terms of global commerce, making them more favorable to the US, but whether this tough stance would lead to better deals or spark a global economic meltdown was the trillion-dollar question. As the world watched and markets reacted, uncertainty loomed. Would these bold moves pay off, or would they backfire, straining relationships with America's closest friends? For now, the world could only watch and brace for what came next. Let's zoom in on the US-Japan deal, a case study in this new chaos. In a world where international agreements are often made with a flourish and a handshake, this particular deal stands out for both its spectacle and its uncertainty. The leaders of two of the world's largest economies, the United States and Japan, came together in a highly publicized meeting, cameras flashing, flags waving, and the world watching closely. But what really happened behind those closed doors? Trump announced a 15% tariff on Japanese goods, claiming Japan will open its markets to US exports like cars and rice. The message was clear: America first, with promises of new opportunities for American farmers and automakers. Shipping containers full of Japanese electronics, cars, and machinery suddenly faced new costs, while American products were supposedly poised to flood Japanese markets. But beneath the headlines, the reality was far more complicated. The deal is being sold as a win, but details are murky. The documents shown to the press were thin on specifics, and even the politicians involved seemed unsure about what had actually been agreed upon. Business leaders and analysts pored over statements searching for clarity that just wasn't there. Trump also claimed Japan would invest $550 billion in the US, a headline-grabbing number with no specifics, timeline, or confirmation. The figure made for dramatic headlines and excited crowds at rallies. But when pressed for details, the administration offered little more than vague assurances. Was this a real commitment or just a number pulled out of thin air to impress the public? As of now, Japan hasn't publicly confirmed any of it. Japanese officials have remained tight-lipped, offering no confirmation or denial, and the Japanese press has reported confusion and skepticism about the supposed investment. No press conference, no official statement, just silence. The usual flurry of diplomatic activity and joint announcements was replaced by a noticeable absence of information. Reporters called government offices, only to be met with unanswered phones and vague responses. Is this a real deal or just wishful thinking? The uncertainty has left both governments and businesses wondering if the handshake was just for show, or if there's substance behind the spectacle. The 15% tariff is actually less than the previously threatened 25%, so it's spun as a compromise. For some, this is a relief, a sign that things could have been worse. For others, it's just another layer of confusion in an already tangled web of trade negotiations. But with no documents and no confirmation, businesses are left in limbo. Factory owners, exporters, and importers are all trying to plan for the future, but without clear rules, every decision feels like a gamble. Some are holding back on investments, while others are scrambling to adjust supply chains. Is the deal done? Is the investment real? Or is it all just political theater? The lack of clarity has left everyone guessing, with contracts unsigned and boardrooms empty as executives wait for real answers. The only certainty is uncertainty. Markets react to rumors and speculation, while traders and economists try to read between the lines. The world watches, but no one really knows what comes next. For now, it's more press release than policy. The official statements are long on promises but short on substance, leaving the public and the press to fill in the gaps with speculation and hope, and everyone's waiting for the next move. In the world of high-stakes diplomacy and global trade, sometimes the most important thing is what isn't said. And right now, the silence is deafening. As if things weren't tense enough, there's now a ticking clock. The administration set an August 1st deadline for countries like Canada, Mexico, and the EU agree to new deals or face tariffs up to 50%. This isn't negotiation, it's economic brinkmanship. The hard deadline is meant to show resolve, but history says Trump might extend it if talks progress. Still, the threat is real, and industries worldwide are scrambling to prepare. The US already has a 10% tariff on most imports, with higher rates on steel, aluminum, and cars. The August 1st ultimatum is a dramatic escalation. It's a high-stakes attempt to force major partners to accept U.S. terms. The world is watching to see who blinks first. Businesses are left guessing, will tariffs hit, or will deals be struck at the last minute? The uncertainty is paralyzing, the clock is ticking, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Who pays for these tariffs? You do. Tariffs are charged to importers, but the cost gets passed to American consumers. Companies like GM and Coca-Cola are already reporting higher costs. Tariffs disrupt supply chains. Parts cross borders multiple times before becoming your car or phone. Retaliatory tariffs from other countries make it harder to sell American goods abroad. Some U.S. industries benefit, but most face rising costs and uncertainty. For families, this means higher prices on everything from coffee to TVs. Some estimates say tariffs could cost the average household up to $2,400 more this year. That's a car payment or a family vacation gone. Retailers are struggling to plan for the holidays, not knowing what tariffs will be in place. The result: frozen investment, disrupted inventories, and growing anxiety. The trade war's real cost is hitting home. America's aggressive tariffs aren't happening in a vacuum. The EU and Canada are preparing to retaliate if no deal is reached by August 1st. Both are drawing up lists of tariffs on American goods, think bourbon, oranges, and more. This tit-for-tat cycle means everyone pays more, and nobody wins. Instead of isolating countries, U.S. strategy is uniting them against us. Allies are strengthening ties with each other, potentially leaving America more isolated. The administration is also cracking down on transshipment and threatening secondary tariffs on countries like Russia. The result: more complexity, more distrust, and a global trading system on edge. Countries are preparing for a new era of confrontation, not cooperation. The world is bracing for a trade brawl, and the fallout could last for years. It's not all conflict. Some deals have been struck. The US has new agreements with the UK, Vietnam, and Indonesia, all following the same tariff-heavy playbook. There's a preliminary deal with China, but it's shaky. The Japan deal is the main event, but details are still unclear and talks continue. Meanwhile, negotiations with the EU, Canada, and Mexico are stalled. The US is juggling multiple high-stakes talks using tariffs as leverage. Some countries are caving to avoid worse terms. Others are digging in for a fight. The result: a global game of chicken, with deadlines looming. The outcome will redraw the map of international trade. For now, it's controlled chaos, and everyone's waiting to see who swerves first. The biggest cost of this trade war might be the uncertainty. Businesses and investors are stuck waiting for real details, especially on the Japan deal and that $550 billion investment. The August 1st deadline only adds to the unpredictability. How do you plan for the future when you don't know what tariffs will be next month? This paralyzes business planning, disrupts supply chains, and forces companies to prepare for every scenario. The administration says short-term pain will bring long-term gain, but economists warn of rising prices and runaway inflation. America's global standing is at risk as allies look elsewhere. The new normal may be more volatile and less prosperous. So, where does this leave us? We're in the middle of a high-stakes experiment in trade policy. The August 1st deadline looms. Will tariffs hit, or will deals be made? Is the Japan investment real, or just a bluff? For Americans, the next months will test whether this strategy brings prosperity or pain. The real impact will be felt in stores, factories, and family budgets. This is about more than numbers. It's about the world we want to live in. The Trump administration has made its choice. Now the world must respond. The story isn't over, and we're all part of it.